Hey, my name's Jonathan, and I'm a veteran.
Hi, my name is Daryl, and I'm a veteran.
My name is Chad, and I'm a veteran.
Hey, I'm Travis. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and I'm a veteran.
Well, hello, and welcome to Conversations with a Vet. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. But before we get to my wonderful guest who's waiting backstage this evening, there's a few things that I would like to go ahead and discuss. So to start, I have to say, I don't really care what side of the aisle anybody is on, but I do hope that we can agree that what happened yesterday with the attempted assassination of former President Trump, the death of retired Fire Chief Corey Comparatori, and the one or two others who were critically injured, that was beyond heinous. So I do want to say that my thoughts go out to all of the victims as well as their families during this difficult time. And I do want you to know you're not alone. Okay, moving on, I want to talk books. So if you want to support a veteran and you haven't already picked up your copy of these wonderful books, go ahead, do it now. So we've got Out of the Darkness, and that book is by Rich LaMonica. We have Donald Dunn's Echoes of War. We also have Jason Lee Morrison, The Perfect Fucking Life. Pardon my French. That's what it says, I swear. It's an anthology. We have Rich LaMonica's 13-Step Guide to Success. We also have Richard Fleek's From Sailor to Backyard Cook. All of these recipes are from veterans. So great cookbook there. And then we have Internal Volume. This is from Lee Allen Deckelman. And he's actually in the process of doing a second write on that. A great, wonderful read. All of those can be found at Amazon. So if you haven't already picked up your copy, go do it now. Also, if you have thought about going to Hero Stock in Lebanon, Tennessee, and listening to some great talent, and you haven't purchased your tickets, you can go to herostock.org, scroll down just a little bit under the events tab. Well, it's not a tab, but just it'll say events. You can click on the Hero Stock 24 on August 3rd, and that's going to be at the Farm Bureau Exposition Center. You will not be disappointed. And as an added bonus, there's going to be several veteran podcasters there as well. Okay, so let's take a look and see, who do we have? We've got comments going like crazy out there. Let's see, who do we have? Okay, I'm trying to avoid the light from my mini blinds. We have Jim, Jason, G23, welcome. Appreciate you guys coming out. Hopefully everybody's trying to stay cool. It's been a crazy heat wave happening here. So, all right, let's go ahead and introduce my guest, William Moland. Hello, sir. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm excellent. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come join tonight and tell your story and have a conversation.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I know we're going to get into each one of these, but you were in 3 different branches. Is that accurate?
Yeah, couldn't settle down.
Well, it happens to a lot, actually. I don't know that I've heard of 3. I have heard of 2.
Right.
Actually, our oldest was in 2. So I definitely understand that and how it goes. So though, before we delve into each one of those branches to start, let's talk a little bit, if you could, about your childhood. What was that like?
Oh, Air Force brat, first of all. uh, yeah, my dad was in the Air Force and we moved around a lot. So by the time I was 10, I think we lived in Turkey and Hawaii. And then I had my parents separated, as a lot of parents do. And my mom married another Air Force guy. And so they were in Japan. So then we'd go to Japan and then I'd go back to Hawaii. So I got to move around a lot, I guess. I got to see a lot of places, and then we came back to the States, depending on which parent I was with at the time. My dad was in North Dakota finishing out his 20 years in the Air Force, retiring there
Wow.
before moving to Colorado, where they are now. And then my mom, they settled in Alabama. That's where I was born. So roll tide. And, and
Glad you got that in there.
I have to get that in there. And so yeah, then I did some teenage years in Alabama before figuring out that there was more out there. So at 16, I left home, went to Montana to go to a Job Corps. I went to Job
In a
Corps.
job corps in Montana.
Yeah, it's my dad was in North Dakota, so they were within their range. So I just used his as his address to apply for it.
Okay.
And
What
uh,
area in Montana?
Darby, Montana, very
Ah,
far south of Missoula.
and that is actually where Yellowstone was filmed or is filmed, is in
Yes.
Darby.
So that's the
So,
thing about Darby, and there's a lot of famous people around there. I fought forest fires and went to high school 1 week, and then the next week you're doing your trade. My trade was welding, so I was getting certified as a welder through Hobart School because it was a government agency, right? So it's the Forest Service. And when you're 16, you're allowed to join the fire crew. They pay you like $9, $10 an hour tax free to go on these fires. And so I did that until I got my high school education, and I'm still best friends with the then director. Her name is Ruth. She was the director. She helped me find my path, so to speak, and got me grounded. I bought a couple of horses. I mean, I was living in Darby for a while, went skiing, ran into Mel Gibson. I helped like Christopher Lloyd's ex-wife move out of, Doc Brown from Back to the Future helped his ex-wife move out of his house. He was mad at me and all the people helping her move out. He wouldn't talk to us, so it wasn't like starstruck, but you know,
kind of hard when they're mad at you, right? To be
right.
starstruck.
You're what? Whose side are you on? So yeah,
Right?
you see some people. It was kind of fun, and I got some good money, and yeah, I see somebody posting the
Yeah.
that bridge in
Yeah.
Darby. Yes, yes.
He
Um,
also said that the restaurant on Main Street is fantastic for breakfast.
uh, Montana Cafe, and that's the
Montana.
one that is written by Hank Williams. Yes, the Montana Cafe, and it still stands today.
Yep, yep. We stayed at a bed and breakfast there in Darby.
Oh,
Yeah, beautiful. Right off of the river there, the
yeah. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, the place I went
Gallatin?
to was called Trapper Creek, and it was even further south of Darby, up in the mountains. So you're off the creek, and I don't know. The Job Corps was everything, so it changed my life. I joined the Air Force from there, but I wanted to be a canine police officer in the Air Force. I was scared to death of dogs because as a child, I got bit by dogs like
Oh,
several times, and I was scared to death of dogs. So, but I was like, I got to defeat that fear because it was the one fear I had. And so I joined the Air Force and I had to wait 8 months. So just rode horses and sold them before I joined the Air Force, and um, took off and did my thing at Lackland for a while.
so it sounds like you were very active to begin with because you
Mm,
were doing the forest fires. You have to be physically fit for something along those lines when you're looking to handle and all the different terrain in forested areas. Montana is not flat like Tennessee or Mississippi. It is very heavily terrained, we'll say.
Yeah,
So, so knowing that, right, that you were very fit, able to go up and down hills, on a regular basis, in the heat,
yeah.
which, I mean, it all counts for something. So you then went into the Air Force. Now, how did that conversation go with your parents that that's what you wanted to do?
At that point, keeping it real, I mean, I wasn't on speaking terms with my mother at the time, and I wasn't on speaking terms with my father so much either. So it was an alienation of what they wanted for me and what I wanted for me. And I wanted to be something much more than, you know, just a grunt or nothing wrong with grunts. Some of my best friends are grunts. But I didn't want to I didn't want to be digging ditches my life, which I respect that too, but I wanted more.
Right.
And they wanted me to settle and I just, you
What
know,
did they want you to settle on? What did they want you to do?
well, I mean, when I was 16, before I left, I was if you heard my jobs that I had, let's say I worked at 3 different fast foods and then I got a really good job working on a tugboat on the Tennessee River out of Florence, Alabama. And it would just be me and the captain, and I was the deckhand, and I'd go out there, and my job was like tie lines around these barges as they came. These big, huge barges come up and down the river from Paducah, Kentucky, or wherever they're coming from, and we would have to pull 1 or 2 out of their stack of 12. And my job was to be the lasso guy and the winch guy and, start the boat, stop the boat. And I was 16 doing this stuff, walking up these side of these small little pathways along the tugboats in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning. But, um, they wanted me to stay and do stuff like that, be a welder, um, be a tugboat guy, just be, that and stay there. And the conversation, back to your question, the conversation was, I'm joining the Air Force and I'm gonna make something of myself. And they was like, okay, cool. So yeah, I had to wait 8 months for the next slot to open up for law enforcement because it's not a job you go apply for canine. You have to be law enforcement. Back then it was law enforcement. Now they're security and law enforcement together, so they're security forces. Back then it was security police and it was law enforcement and security specialist. And to get the law enforcement was my opportunity to do my best to get into canine, and that's what I strived for. So I had to wait 8 months for that.
And that's with the Air Force.
That was, yes, the Air Force. 1993. I
Okay.
joined them in 92, delayed enlistment, got in February 16th, 1993 was my boot camp day.
Okay. And how I ask this question to every guest, and because I've heard stories, boot camp, basic training, um, some funny stories. So
Mhm.
that being said, we already know you're fit, you can handle the heat. So what was it like for your first day of boot camp?
A lot of blood from my face. They give you like less than a minute to shave, right? And they got
Oh,
these little
okay.
blue Bic shavers, and then you got
The
30 seconds.
disposable ones.
Yes, and then you're up there shaving like as fast as you can, even though you've already shaved before you came because you knew you had to have a clean face and everything. And I'm sitting there just going against the grain. There's no lotions, there's no aftershave, there's nothing. It's just you got 30 seconds to be downstairs, go, and you're just ripping and going. So now we're all standing. I was just telling this story to my wife the other day, and it's like we stand down, we come down and we get into formation, loose formation because we're nobodies yet, and we're standing at attention and they come up with these military ID cards and they go against the grain. And if they hear it go, you have to go back up and shave
Oh,
and you're already bleeding. And it's just like a thing. And I'm sure any of your viewers would probably agree with me that it's pretty traumatizing for men. And that's why I think when you get out of the military, you're just so tired of the shaving situation that, yeah, you get the beard going.
yeah. My son got out in April, and yeah, so and he didn't even trim down here. It's like all coming all the way down.
Oh, he's got neck beard.
He does. Yep, yep, he
Nothing
does.
wrong with a neck beard for the first
No,
few years.
nothing wrong
But
with that at all. But and so obviously, you had that was your very first indoctrination
mm,
into military boot camp.
sure.
Um, What can you recall as far as funny stories go outside of that?
Boot camp. It was tragic because I can get to that, but the tragedy of my time at boot camp was the Air Force was tired of getting made fun of for only having a 6-week boot camp, right? So they
Okay.
decided to say, "Oh, we can up it." So they extended my they call them flights or platoons in the Army, but right, so they in the Marines, but we call them flights, and they say, "Okay, well, your flights and this whole building has been selected due to this training thing where you're going to be extended 2 weeks in boot camp." And instead of adding new things that we could be doing during that extra 2 weeks, like, okay, you're going to extend it by 2 weeks and make it an 8-week boot camp. So we're at least compared to these other branches, that's fine. But make it like, oh, we're going to put in, what is it? Bayonet fighting or something cool. No, they didn't. They just repeated the last 2 weeks. So we had to reset and do the entire last 2 weeks all over again, just so we can say we had an 8-week boot camp.
So do you think that after you guys graduated, since you were the first ones for this,
Mhm.
that maybe they all regrouped and said, "Okay, let's actually add something to this"?
I think there were, that's above my pay grade, but I think that maybe there was a lot of people in the government, the military that, they decided, well, we do need to make it, we're not going to let them get to their 4th week and have to repeat the last 2 weeks again. That's demoralizing. So we need to figure out something for it. And I don't know if they ever, how far that went in the future, but I just know it never happened really. So, yeah, I finished boot camp, and boot camp funny times. We sung a bunch of songs that one of these kids from Harlem wrote, and we were all sounding like some nice R&B music going down the road. And it was like, for me, I'm a heavy metal guy. I like Metallica. I like country music too, but I like Metallica and Slayer, and that's what I grew up on. And I was in a band as a kid, and I played drums, and I was like, this is cool, but here I am singing R&B songs. I was like, I'm from Alabama, guys, but it was still fun. But I was really off key, but we made it, and that was fine. After boot camp, I had to do the police academy. Police
And
academy
how did
was
that go?
it
What
was
was that about?
interesting. Well, I mean, you get to drive police cars around. Obviously, you get to learn how to drive these things and pursuits and stuff. It's pretty much like a civilian law enforcement, which I have been to a civilian law enforcement academy as well. I was a deputy sheriff in 2 different states. The the academy in the Air Force was pretty good at the time. There was a lot of shooting. There was a lot of push-ups. We did about 600 push-ups a day, and I don't mean at a time. It's like,
Right, over the course of the day?
yeah, it's like, you guys all forgot this, drop and give me 10. You guys forgot this, give me 25, et cetera, et cetera. It adds up over 10 to 12 hours. So yeah, I was doing 600 some odd push-ups a day. And then in order to be canine, there was 70 some odd people in the class, and they offered, if they had 2 slots, it was the top 2. If they have 5 slots, the top 5 in the grading system. And I was number 4, and they only offered 3, and I was like, I just lost my chance at canine. But the 3rd person they brought up, she was allergic to dogs.
Why would you try for that if
They just offer it. You don't have to try for it. She tried for the best in class because that's just human competitiveness, right?
okay.
But she was like, when they offered it to the people, they were like, "Yeah, I want canine. Yeah, I want canine." And she goes, "I'm allergic to dogs. I can't." So they went to number 4, and that was me. And I was like, "Well, that's really awesome." And I got to go. And I had to do a tryout. Um, a bunch of yelling commands at dogs, like, the command to tell the dog to stop doing something is out, OUT. So you just out as loud as you can. And I have a deep command voice. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So, and I went up on stage and like, hey, you're great. So I got canine, and then I mowed lawns for the next 3 weeks, waiting for canine school to start, put me on extra duty because they had nothing for me to do.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to canine school where they gave us freedom. We were allowed to dress in civilian clothes off duty. We were allowed to drive cars. We were allowed to have our own barracks room. You didn't have to share. you could come and go just like you were permanent party personnel, and it was really fun. But the hazing at K9 was extreme back in the day.
Really?
Oh my goodness, hazing was so bad back then. Um, we'd get up at 2 in the morning, they'd wake us up and bring us outside, make us do push-ups over piles of dog poop until somebody falls.
Oh,
I know. We would have to we have canteens. The basic military canteens are those green ones.
hmm.
You know what the basic ones look like, and they come in a metal can. They fit inside of, and then that fits inside of a carrier, cloth carrier that you hook on your belt. So you take your canteen out, you take your metal canteen. You could cook soup in it, you could drink water. But we use it for our dogs, so we had to carry 3 cans of water with us, 3 canteens of water, and you'd pour the water into the canteen metal cup, and you set it down, and you had to let your dog drink out of it. And then once your dog drank out of it, you got to drink out of it.
Nice.
So that was the things they used to do to us. I've heard they might still do that. I don't know, but
Well, in the thick of it, right now, I'm talking, war and things like that. I mean, you're limited on water. So I could understand to a
yeah.
small degree, it's kind of your way of conserving that water.
No, yeah, it's a way of making sure that your dog gets the water first. You know what you need when you need it. Your dog can't really tell you, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, because these dogs are trained and programmed to have a high drive. Like they'll train 100 dogs and like maybe 10 of them will make it through the program. And those are the 10 highest drive dogs because they got to be attack dogs, they got to be search detection dogs, they got to be bomb or narcotic or whatever they're trained for. They have to have drives. And I've worked a dog in Afghanistan before that I gave water to, and I tried to keep going, but he'd pass out before you can stop him. He just wanted to keep working the whole time. And
Oh,
he's
wow.
passed out on me, and I had to give him an IV and run him, some fluids. So yeah, you got to make sure the dogs get water. That's a good point. We do that. Yeah.
And how long then were you in the Air Force?
I was supposed to do 4 months, but I got out 2.5 months early because I wanted to be a state trooper. I was cocky. I'm
Did you say
24
you were supposed to do 4 months?
years.
Okay, okay, okay.
4-year contract. And so I was like, I have a 4-year contract. So I'll do my 4-year contract. And then they gave me orders back to, I was at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana. It's a
So
nuke
right where
base,
that's
right?
at. Yep.
Yeah. And they said, oh, you can't leave the base. We need you here. You're staying for another 4. And that was just blew my mind. I was married, two young babies at the time. And I just didn't want to stay in Great Falls anymore, and so I was like, I'm going to get out and go be a state trooper in Alabama because I'm cocky. I'm 23, 24 years old. I'll go down there and I'll be a cop. It didn't happen. I ended up working on a tugboat again for a while.
In Alabama.
In Decatur, Alabama, this time next to Huntsville.
Mhm.
So I went back to tugboats and welding for a little bit. And then I got to work at the sheriff's department and, uh, then it went pretty quickly for me. I was working as a sheriff deputy. I was in college. I'd work part-time at an airport where I was a lineman, which was just pushing the Cessna little planes by their propellers into the hangars and taking them out in the morning. They were giving me free flight lessons. I never got my pilot's license, but they were giving me free flight lessons plus pay. And so I had to work all these multiple jobs because what you have in the military, you got all this insurance, you got food, you got stability. But once you become a civilian and you're out there, it's like, where does all this money go? Where does it
Right.
come from? So you learn the hard way. So I joined the Army Reserves at the same time too. So it was Army Reserves, deputy sheriff, airport, and going to college, a community college at the time.
Very ambitious to be doing all of that all at
You
the
got to do
same.
what you got to do.
You do. That's true. And especially where you have a family,
Yeah.
young children.
Mhm.
And so Jim says that he worked Maelstrom commissary with Kraft Foods.
Yeah.
Sergeant Rodriguel,
Rojiguel.
sure, ran this show. Then a female, and I can't remember her name.
Oh, right on.
Um,
Maelstrom is a good base. The houses I used to live in aren't there
excuse me.
anymore, but it's
Uh,
just you're out in the middle of nowhere. So
exactly. Exactly. So okay, and at what point then did you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and sign with the reserves for the army?
so the Army Reserves I joined because they had a 2-year program for at the time it was like you could even go active duty, I think at the time for 2 years, 98. So I was like, well, let me just go reserve for a couple years, see what it's like. So I joined this unit. It was an engineering unit that was in Decatur, and I spent 2 years doing that. But they didn't even let me do engineering stuff. They let me drive the graders once in a while just for fun, but I wasn't certified, the road graders. But they had me in the armory because I was previously law enforcement in the Air Force. So I got promoted to E5 in the Army Reserve, and then it's like, okay, you're a sergeant, and now you're in charge of the armory, and you got to clean the guns, pass out the guns, do all the stuff with weapons for all us military people. But you had to pass out all the weapons, you had to do all that stuff, and it was my job in case we got a deployment that I would do that. And it wasn't fun for me, but I did that for 2 years. I got out in 2000, and my
And
sheriff, sorry.
when did you go into the Air Force? What year?
93 to 97, and then Army Reserve
Okay.
98 to 2000.
Okay. Just following that timeline.
Sure. I was
Uh,
a deputy sheriff there, so I was like my sheriff was like, "You're never gonna get a canine. We don't need dogs anymore. We got 2 dogs. They're retiring. Those canine handlers are becoming detectives." So the sheriff was of Morgan County, Alabama. He's like, "We don't need dogs anymore. We just don't need them." And I was like, "Well, that's all I wanna be a deputy for." And that's why I joined the Navy next, and I joined the Navy in May of 2001 because I wanted to go back to dogs, right? So, I knew I'd have a chance in the Navy before ever seeing it in the civilian world.
so did you have to go through basic training again when you went from the Air Force to the Army?
Good question, actually. No, in the Air Force, it was boot camp, extended boot camp in my case, um, several weeks, 7 weeks as the police academy, 6 or 7 weeks as K9, and then I went to what they called back then Air Base Ground Defense at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and that's 2 weeks of learning how to defend a base because there's this whole military system of if a military installation is attacked, the Army has the outside, the Air Force has the inner perimeters, and it's just this huge way of protecting military installations, and we had to learn all that and figure it all and the Army taught it. The drill instructors taught it from Fort Dix, and they didn't like us at all. And so, yeah, I did 2 weeks of that, and then I got to Malmstrom Air Force Base, and then 3 months after getting there, they sent me back to Lackland, and I did another 13 weeks of detection school and other training for medical care for a dog, like basically like a vet tech, how to put IVs in and triage your dog and stuff like that and take care of them medically. And then with all that training and all that certification, the Army didn't have me go through. They had me go. Um, I didn't go to AIT. I did no AIT. I did no boot camp. I did MEPS. I got uniforms that I had to pay for out of my first few checks. And then that was that. The Navy had me go to Great Lakes, which is their boot camp up in Illinois. I had to stay up there for no less than no less. They said up to 10 days where I would go get my hair cut, get my uniforms again, get all my shots and put all my family in, do the deers, do all the ID card stuff and wait for orders. And they said you could take 10 days to do it. I did it all in 4 days and then I went back to they sent me to Pensacola because even though I went in as K9, tried to get into K9, they didn't accept the Army's rank of E5. So they brought me in the Navy as an E3. So now here I am. There's a funny story coming. I'm going to tell you this funny story. You want a funny story about training? I'm going to give you a very funny story. So here I am at this E3 who's been in the military for 6 years. I've had a deployment I did with the Air Force training in South Korea. I did some other stuff. and I had ribbons and I had all these hash marks on my dress blues for the Navy. I'm in Pensacola and I'm going to aviation ordnance school. I was like, I'm going to learn how to put bombs on planes. I want to work on an aircraft carrier. I'm going all Navy. So I'm standing up there in front of I go up there and I had to go to check in, and then the the person in charge, whatever they are, the quarter deck person, sends me to see the master chief, which is like the E9 or the command master chief. I'm standing outside of his office. He walks by, looks my uniform up and down with all the stripes and the E3 sitting on my shoulder and all these ribbons, like this board of ribbons. And has me come inside. Has me standing outside parade rest for an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes. And my wife and kids are out in the car because all I had to do was check in, get my paper signed, and go back to the hotel. And that's all I was supposed to do. He had me out there hour and a half, hour 40. He calls me in and he starts yelling at me. What kind of dirt bag? I'm going to use polite words. What kind of dirt bag are you? You got sent in from the fleet. You got busted down. You got all these years in, and now you're a freaking E3. What were you, an E6, E5? What were you? I was like, I don't know your rank, so I haven't been to boot camp, so I don't know your rank, but I'm another service veteran, and I just came in from the Air Force and Army Reserve, and I don't know your ranks yet, so I don't know what to call you. And he's like, it's Command Master Chief, and I was like, okay, so I don't know anything, and I didn't get in trouble. It's just the Navy doesn't accept my stuff. And he's like, oh man, I feel bad. He bought me like, I told him about my kids and stuff in the car. He bought me all these candy and all these soda. He felt so bad about it. But it's like, what do you, I guess they get people who come back and get redesignated in their
Yeah.
field. So that was a funny story for me.
Well, you're very fortunate that you didn't have to go through basic or boot camp again.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, very
Now,
fortunate.
had you tried to go into the Marine Corps, that's
hmm
a different ballgame.
Yeah, Marine Corps will make you go back through. I did aviation ordnance May, June, July, August. So I get back up and they assign me to Whidbey Island, Washington State. So I go up there and they send me to Turkey for 3 months. We did a deployment. We come back from Turkey. 9/11 happens almost immediately
Was Turkey your first deployment
with
out
the
of all
Navy.
3 branches?
No, I went TDY in the Air Force to South Korea, went to Osan with my dog, which they told me not to release my dog over there because they said that there's people who will try to trick military working dog handlers to release their dogs on them so they could capture them so they could eat them. I don't know if that was a horror story, but that was just something that they told us when we got there. So don't
So you
release
never
your dog.
released your dog.
Keep them on a chain.
What was your dog's name?
Sonia, that one was Sonia 1, and she had her sister was there with Sonia 2. Sonia 1 was narcotics detection, big giant Belgian Mal. She was about 90 pounds. And her sister Sonia 2, we called Snaggletooth because she had broken her right canine on her front right. So we called her Snaggletooth Sonia, and she was explosive detection.
Okay, and you handled both dogs?
Yeah, so I worked Sonia first. They tried to get me on a dog named Dookie, but Dookie was insane and only had to he could only work with females, and you had to wear a specific perfume or he would bite you. So he was just a
Oh.
real, we call him, can I say ass eater? I'll say it
You can
anyway.
say whatever you want. This
Okay,
is your
so
show.
he was an ass eater, so he comes up leash, and you have to be careful with dogs like that. And so I didn't get to work him. Then they gave me Sonya too because she was explosive, and I worked her, and then went to Osan for 88 days.
Okay. And what was now, we talked a little before the show.
Mhm.
What was, or I guess I should say, did you have an opportunity then to eat the food there?
Yes, in Korea and Turkey. So I lived in Turkey as a kid for 3 years, at the exact base I was deployed to when I was in the Navy. And seeing some of the houses, they weren't there. We have pictures, so I tried to look and see if I could find them, but those houses aren't there. Obviously, it was like in the 80s, so they've been upgraded. But it was really cool to be in the same place. And yeah, I got the turkey Adana. They call it chicken Adana. Um, Everything was like $2. You got to go see. I had to go in the Tuborg beers. Yeah, there are a lot of things that I got to eat in Turkey. South Korea, I don't remember what it's called, but it's dog on a stick.
Is that like
Eh,
really what they called it?
It's not dog on a stick. Is not what it's called. Somebody might Google it in your watch. Whoever's watching might
All
Google
right,
it. But
y'all out there in the chats, Google that for me, would you?
but the actual name, it was dog on a stick, and excuse me, and all these guys were daring. It's like, oh man, they sell it all over the place. I dare to eat it. I dare to eat it. So I gave him like my few bucks or whatever, and I ate dog on a stick, and it was pretty decent. So, and I have a dog handler. It was just funny, but
Right? That would have been a double dog dare.
well, hey, I've eaten live octopus, those little baby squids. I've had
Live?
yeah, they're live. You dip them in sauce and then you eat them. Try not to choke on.
Yeah, that would be my case.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're too slimy for me.
Hmm.
So no. And then so turkey, you had some decent food.
Turkey was really good. I mean, I like Middle Eastern food in general. Baklava is like one of my favorite desserts. And they had a lot of good pistachio baklava over there, so it was my favorite thing. But um, I liked all the food in the Middle East. I've been to Dubai, Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, and I've had um, I've had a little bit of everything over there when I was there. So I come back from Turkey and 9/11 happened, and they called me up and said, "You're no longer going to be aviation ordnance. We need you to be a dog handler again." And I'm like, "No, I found the love for this new job. I'm an E4, which is an NCO in the Navy." I was like, "I'm going to be a dog handler. I mean, I'm going to be a aviation ordnance man. I'm going to go to a ship one day." And they said, "No, you got to be a dog handler. There's no choice." And so they made me a dog handler and made me go to police academy again. So I went to a sheriff's department where Portsmouth Sheriff's Department in Virginia. They flew me from Whidbey Island to there, do the sheriff's department. They were doing this shorter version of their sheriff's department. They gave me which way is it?
On
They
the
gave
other
me
side.
that badge. So
The
one of
first
them's
one.
one of them's Morgan County, whichever. One of them's Morgan County and one of them's Portsmouth. But Morgan County was the one I was at and went through the real Sheriff's Department Academy, and the other one is the little one that I did a like a 3/4 whatever, and I got to be a deputy reservist when I got back there. But they sent me to from that police academy to La Maddalena, Italy, to be a dog handler. And my first dog there, that was Alan. Um, Stayed there for a short period. We were supposed to do a deployment into Iraq, 2003 ish. They said no, you couldn't go through Turkey. Something else happened with the base closing, so they sent us all back. And then I didn't have a dog for a year and a half. I was stationed at Norfolk. I became a E5, and then I became in charge of a section. I became the most certified patrolman out of the civilian and the military police there. And then they gave me a dog. I did Hurricane Katrina. Oh, Norfolk is full of stories. Oh my gosh! But a lot of things happened to me in Norfolk.
Yeah. Anything you care to talk about?
I mean, I learned how to drive like the fast boats they had. Chief of the guard is what they called us. If you worked at the head of the pier, you checked the IDs of the people coming on and off the ships, or going into the ships, and that was your job really for 12 hours. And that was part of what I did. And then sometimes I would get on a boat, and I got to do that, and that was really
And
fun to
this
get
is
certified.
after the Navy.
This is the Navy. I was in the
Oh,
Navy. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Following. Gotcha.
Well, yeah. So I'm an MA2, so it's Master at Arms second class, MA2, which is an E5. And they said I was they called me up one day. They called me up while I was out grocery shopping with my wife and kids at the commissary, and they said, "We need volunteers. Hurricane Katrina has just done a lot to New Orleans." I was like, "Oh, okay. How long do we have?" So I got to pack and be there tomorrow. I'm out grocery shopping. Then you got like 3 hours. So I told my wife, I was like, "Hey, all right, we're going." We dropped everything in the aisle. I rushed back home, packed up like a 4-day bag. I had one of those radios that you wind up to
Frank.
listen to, because I know there was no power down there and I had to charge my cell phone, even though I didn't know if there was going to be cell phone towers or not. Brought some stuff down, went to the base. They had us get the vest, army, get our vest. I had a leg holster for my 9, put that in there, grabbed an M6 or M4, um, grabbed the ammo loadout, combat load, no helmets, none of that stuff, just, the combat loads and the vest. And they put us on a C2 plane from Norfolk. It's like 100 degrees on the flight line. And these planes face the back of the plane, the seats do. And so you're facing backwards, and they start shoving all this water and MREs on top of us and fly us down there. We get down there at the tail, like literally the hurricane is still like barely blowing, but it's still there. That's like the tail end of it. And we land in the middle of the night. There's no lights on the runway whatsoever. A couple of guys brought out some golf carts and some other things with lights on them so the C2 could see everything. We land at night. It's dead calm now. It's like barely breeze. There's no mosquitoes because I guess they've all been blown away by Katrina. And we're down there and we're trying to figure out where we're going to go because we got to get to this what's it called, Naval Support Activity, NSA New Orleans. We had to get down there to that base because that's what we're there to protect because of top secret stuff on there. We had to go down and make sure nobody got into because it's been abandoned, evacuated, and there was only like 2 or 3 people there. So we find this Marine, tell him what we need. He steals a bus and a big old truck from their carpool or their motor pool. And we all load up into this thing and start heading out to NSA New Orleans. And we run into a roadblock with FBI and a state trooper. And they're like, you better lock and load past this point because it's Wild West out there.
Oh,
And we're like,
wow.
oh my gosh, okay.
And no helmet.
No, well, we don't need helmets. I mean, we're young and dumb and got a vest,
Which is
So
great from here down.
so they tell us lock and load and keep your guns pointing out the windows. And we rolled all the windows down and lock load. Everybody pointed whatever direction. We get to the base and there's people rioting, trying to get into the base. We had to quash that. They're the base commanders, like this O6 captain, and then there's an O2 and an E5. So the 3 people, and they were just holding 9mm and shaking like we were gonna have to shoot them if they come in. And we had to disperse them. They dispersed, and it was okay. And then we had to set up perimeters. Didn't even get the rest. Put all the water and food up. Uh, it was the base was devastated with the hurricane. There was an oil tanker because the base was split in 2 by a canal, and there was a giant oil tanker laying up on shore right next to the dock of this base, and it was down by what do they call it? Uh, I don't remember what the area was called, but it was like ninth ward, lower ninth ward,
Okay.
and that's one of the worst areas for violence, I guess, and that's roughly around the area. There was shooting. The gas station across from our base, they blew up. People would drive by shooting at the base if they saw you walking around. Um, we were there 2.5 days, 2 days, I guess, 2.5 days. And then the 82nd Airborne came in, flying in their helicopters, landed, and they became a problem. There was just too many of them, not enough places with working bathrooms. You can see where I'm going with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then it became a thing, and then we started pulling people, helping people. But people were shooting at you when you're trying to help people. New Orleans police was asking us for 9mm ammunition, which we didn't have to give them because we only had our 3 mags for our guns. I mean, there were dead bodies laying here and there. People would bring their dead veterans, and it was the saddest thing. They'd bring their dead veteran dad or their dead veteran husband or whatever, wife or child or whatever, whoever's dead, and they would bring him and say, "You guys got to bury him. He's a veteran, and we can't keep him in the house. It smells. We don't have air conditioning. It's like 105 degrees out here." And we had to deal with that I was there for 32 days. I was 3rd in command. Command is loose. I was 3rd highest ranking. And I stayed for 32 days. We handed everything over, and I went home, and I had a couple of months to recover from all that before they called me up and says, "We have a person who can't deploy because they're non-deployable, but their dog is deployable. and you're deployable and you're a dog handler and you need to be in Afghanistan in 30 days. And I'm like, it takes 30 days to build a rapport with a dog, you know? So I'm shaking. I got all this going on. I'm like, okay, this is freaking me out. And going to combat for the first time, and it was unfamiliar dog, unfamiliar circumstances.
How did the training go with the dog?
There was some sandbagging from the person who had the dog because it was their dog they had for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, and they couldn't deploy, so they know that dog can deploy, so they had to lose their dog to me. And seeing this dog you built this great rapport with and that you trained up, going to somebody who I'm sitting there going, how do I get my dog to train to do this again? You know, I'm trying to remember the words, and I mean, it's been a couple of years at this point, and so yeah, I can see the frustration on their part, but my frustration was I'm the one taking it to a combat zone, and things were difficult for training. So my dog, the person who the dog belonged to, was the only other person there at the time because everybody's deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq.
Mhm.
So that person had to be the person to help plant my training aids. You know, we'd go out to the armory, go out to the EOD area. We'd check out that 19-pound explosive kit, had deck cords, C4, water gel, you know, TNT, all these explosives in it that are real. And then we'll go and plant them somewhere. And then I have to find them. And that dog is watching that person. So my dog's like, who are you? And why you hold my leash and why ain't they? So it
Right.
was very complicated for me. And by the time I deployed, I spent 2 weeks in Jackson at Fort Jackson in South Carolina, learning how to do convoys and all this other stuff they make you do as part of the deployment. And that dog finally started bonding with me a little bit because that handler wasn't around, you know? So
And
it was
so
fun.
what was it like so were you in when you got to Afghanistan then in a combat area?
Mhm. So we flew into Kuwait, went to Ali Al Salim, and then um, Camp Arif Jan. They swipe your cat card, and you're officially in country in a combat zone. And so they swipe you in, and that's when you start getting paid that has pay. Um, our dogs and us, there was 6 dog handlers staying in 4 tents, and the dogs couldn't stay together because they're alpha dogs. Male or female, they're gonna kill each other.
Right.
So we had to stay in separate tents, and we're out in the desert, all sand, 190 million degrees outside. You take your dog outside to poop, and you go, okay, you bring your dog back in to lock it up in the kennel, get it back in the air conditioner. Um, you come back outside to pick up the poop because that's what you're trained to do. And the poop is already drying away and turning into powder. It's just that fast. It was
Ugh.
unbelievable. So you didn't really have to pick up much poop, so that was a plus. But you had to put booties on your dog's paws and put doggles. We call them doggles, you know, goggles for dogs.
Goggles
So we
for
had
dogs.
so we had doggles and put those on so because they were their ears were awful in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's just the amount of ear infections and stuff that the dogs get, or even what's it called, mold,
Mm.
fungus in between their paws. It's just it was crazy. Just the upkeep of dogs plus all the extra gear you got to carry for yourself, but you got to care for your dog as well. And
Right.
you're just carrying a lot of stuff with you.
Oh my gosh.
Mm,
And so now you're in Afghanistan,
mhm.
and how did this dog do?
How did this dog what?
How did this
Oh,
dog perform?
excuse me. um, he did extremely well. He was 8 years old.
Oh,
Uh,
gee.
yeah, that's usually the limit. Most dogs can't be older than 7 for combat. They kind of make some rules, but I don't know. There's a lot of rules, but he was 8, so he didn't have to do the confidence course anymore officially. So he didn't have to do the jump in the walls and all that showboating stuff. But he did his attack work, and he he got hurt. I got hurt. I can't tell the whole story, but there were some injuries, and um, that ended my those physical injuries ended my military career, and the let's see, the dog, he did his best, but it had nothing to do with his inability or his ability, right? So it just happened to be circumstance of what happened. It involved well, he was off the leash at the time, and something happened, but so I can't really go into it.
Right.
But
Right.
the situation is that it's like, okay, so I was planning on coming back and trying to join the army again, bounce from another branch, but I was offered to, they like Apache flying because they had like nobody wants to fly the Apache helicopters because you go to fly the Apache helicopters, you're deployed a year, you're home for 6 months, you're deployed a year, you're home 6 months. And that's just they didn't have enough pilots. And I was going to use that to become a chief warrant officer. So I was like, yeah, you're going to teach me how to fly because I want to fly. But then I got hurt and I that ended that. And then I came home, um, went through some PTSD stuff, went through some physical uh, physical therapy, went through a lot of different things trying to figure out if I should stay in and just change jobs to something that I could have a permanent waiver for or something. And I decided it'd be best just to leave. And I got out in February of 2008 and moved to Colorado, to Western Colorado. And then I
Okay.
started working private contracts from there.
So let's go back a little bit. So your injuries. So not going into detail as far as what happened, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the injuries themselves?
Yeah. So TBI,
Hmm.
um, my right knee, patella, something or another, whatever the medical termination, but knee, tendon, all that. And my lower lumbar and sciatic nerve on my
Okay.
left side was pulled from its normal position, popped around to the side of my leg, and it had to be like more than once. I had to go to a specialist after getting home to physical therapy, but I had to massage it back to my butt cheek, basically, because it kept moving, and then I couldn't stand up, walk, sit proper. I mean, it was just utter pain.
Right. And then did the dog survive?
Yeah, with that dog did survive. There was one dog I worked in Afghanistan as a private contractor that did it.
Okay. So, all right. So, obviously, I mean, you sounds like you've seen a lot. Um, and so PTSD, that's very real. And when you got out of the Navy, you transitioned back to civilian life. How did that go for you? What kind, if any, resources did the Navy provide for you for transitioning back?
You're talking about so there's so much that happened when I got back. I trained my dog. I trained the U.S. Navy has a Navy manual called the um, 5585-2 Bravo, and it's for canine, specifically canine, how to use them. Nowhere in there tells you how to use your dog for combat. So I had to train my dog. I was stationed with the Army, 10th Mountain, and I was stationed with them. I was under their command, and I had to basically do the Army's AR 1-12 or whatever it's called for the Army military working dog training manual because they do platoon movements. Excuse me, listening posts, observation posts, all these things that are applicable to combat. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that, and I trained my dog their way, and they tried as soon as I got home. They tried hemming me up for it. I mean, I have 3 branches of service, 2 honorable discharges, 3 good conduct medals. Um, all these other stuff. They got me for a Bronze Star. I got a Bronze Star. I got all these things that they've given me for my perfect dedication and duty and stuff, and then they tried hemming me up for training
And
my
when
dog.
you were doing it, what did they try to do?
Well, in the Navy, it's called a captain's mast. It's like an Article 15 hearing where they're gonna try to bust you and uh, treat you like garbage. They
What on what grounds, I guess?
uh, their grounds was Article 134, abuse of a public animal, because I trained my dog to be a um, to be in combat, and I trained him against the regulations for the Navy's manual.
The Navy's manual or the Army's manual?
I trained him against the Navy's manual. You're only allowed to train your dogs on what's according to the 5585-2 Bravo. Not too long after I got out, 6 months actually later, they have the new 5585-2 Charlie, which weirdly all of a sudden has all the regulations you need to train your dog in a combat zone. But yeah, it needed to be in there.
And so how did that go for you then when you
Mm.
actually um, separated from the Navy? Was it an honorable, other than
Yeah, I got an
honorable?
honorable. Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
And
an
so what would it, I guess, I mean, it's really frustrating to hear, right? That
honorable.
you've served your country multiple times,
Mm,
and then you end up injured
mm.
and are no longer able to do so, and then you go to separate with them, and they're giving you grief.
Uh, yeah. The way they gave me my Bronze Star, in fact, my commanding officer um, came up to me. It was in a Bronze Star. It's in a wooden box, and he just throws it at me as I was signing my 214 DD 214 to get out of the Navy, and I threw it back at him and um, popped him in the head with it, and signed my 214. And I was a civilian. And they told me to leave. So, um, but yeah, I got my honorable discharge. I got not they were supposed to give me a medical discharge. I was supposed to be out on medical retirement, but they changed it 3 days before my exiting and saying that PTSD doesn't exist. It's a personality disorder you pick up from a combat zone and can be treated with therapy. I had spent already at that time a year going through therapy, and I went through a year. I went twice a month for a year, and I saw probably 9 or 10 different therapists, not on my choice. It's just that they would deploy or they'd get out or they'd
Was this
quit.
so? Would this be the VA that you
No,
went to?
that's the military installation. I was at Portsmouth Naval Medical Hospital from Norfolk. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. They,
And so, were you able to appeal any of that?
so that's the trick. They said, we're going to give you 30% service connected disability,
Is that DoD or VA?
VA, and then they're going to give me $16,400 severance pay. So here's the trick. I can't get $16,400 in severance pay and get my 30% service connected disability at the same time. So they took my 16,000 out of my 30% until the 16,000 was paid back to the government. And then
The
once that was,
buyback, if you will. Yeah.
yes. And then once that ended, that 30% is what all I had. I had nobody to go. I went to Grand Junction, Colorado. I had to. The day I signed my DD 214, kids, everybody sitting in the car. We were driving to Grand Junction. We had no house, no nothing. We had to go, right? So we drove to Grand Junction, Colorado, and I got there and I started trying to work on some stuff, get my VA stuff going, trying to get my disability ratings all looked at and raised. Obviously, I was limping still at the time, not much, but I still had a bad limp. My back was always hurting. Uh, then I met a guy who's like, "I'm a truck driver. You should come work in the oil fields." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." So I went to a trucking school where they wouldn't let me pay the $5,000 for, because I was a veteran who, disabled veteran, just came back from Afghanistan, and they was like, "Nah, man, you're not paying." So I was like, "Oh," I'm start crying, like, "Oh, that was so good." Went to trucking school for 2 weeks. Got out of CDL and started driving water tankers for the oil fields in the mountains of western Colorado, and they made me a supervisor in 3 months. And
Wow.
I was getting, I don't know, it was like 80, $90,000 a year. And then in 2008, um, somebody was elected into the presidency, and they
That's
canceled
when, yeah, we had that
2/3 of the oil shutdown.
huge recession
And
and everything went down.
I had no job. I was in Western Colorado, which was a dumb move because it was just basically all oil. So, and I didn't have a college degree. I had some credit. I had an associate's certificate, but I didn't have anything of worth at the time. And so I started getting emails like, "Hey, you're a dog handler. I remember you from Afghanistan, and you were the guy doing this, that." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Come with me, man. We got this job." So it was a company called AMK9. So I was like, "Okay, well, I'll go work for AMK9." Um, Went down to Texas, stayed there for 3 months, certifying DoD certifications with
Did
the
your
dog.
family go with you then?
No, 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 no. They had to stay behind. Um, Yet another time I leave my family, and I go to San Antonio, Texas, Hill Country Dog Center in South San Antonio. So I stayed there for 3 months, training with a big ass dog named Diesel,
What kind
um,
of dog was it?
Belgian Malinois, and they buy these
They are the
dogs.
most beautiful animals. They are
I have
so beautiful.
I have one here at my house. um, so yeah, they buy their dogs from the Belgian Ring competition people, like Blue Ribbon Dogs. These dogs are $10,000, $12,000 dogs, and they're already accomplished certified beasts. So, got these dogs, been down there 3 months training, had a falling out with the hiring manager slash owner, um, moved back to Grand Junction after leaving that gig, and another company from Canada hired me. They's like, "Hey, we know who you are, so you could come with us. You already went through all this training, just come on." So they just bought me a ticket from Grand Junction, Colorado to Kandahar, Afghanistan. Uh, that's
Contractor.
contractor, and that was for Canada. And I did some it was DOD slash. I can't say everything. There was a lot of things we did with these dogs as private contractors, and they would check you out. So like this army unit is all infantry, but they need medics, so they check out a medic or two. They also need engineers to do the mining and the dismantling or whatever of explosives when we find them, and they need dog handlers, and so they check out different people. So you're like one or two. There's like 4 or 5 of us who've never met these 60 some odd people, and you're stationed with them in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere. My base was the Canadians had me first, so I was at OP Khyber, which is off the Arghandab River off Route Hyena down in Penjway. So that's southwest west of Kandahar, way out in the middle of nowhere. And there were 7 Canadians, me, my dog, and 20 Afghan ANA, Afghan National Army, and that's it. And we had to do route sweeping. My dog would get up in the morning. The guys would all put their stuff together. Um, They didn't give me a gun from the company, couldn't get the guns in the country. So let's just say the first guy who didn't need his gun anymore, I got it, which was an AK-47 with
Okay.
6 mags. I had to clean it up a little bit, but the guy didn't need it anymore. So I got that, and that was my combat gun. And I mean, it was pretty nice having an AK because you didn't have to clean it as much. Um, and then we had some issues every once in a while, and there was they sent me on to another unit because I lost. I got injured. I lost my dog, and uh, you know, part of my dog went through my leg and my face. And
Oh gosh.
there was just a lot of trauma with that, and I
I
got all this
can.
stuff sitting over there on a shelf. And I don't have it hanging yet. Shadow box, I haven't built one yet, but I just can't get to it sometimes.
Yes.
I just keep it there. But
I'm very, very sorry. That's,
thank you. I keep it
animals,
right
there you go. Animals are, you know, dogs, cats, family pets are
there.
family,
Mhm.
right? And especially if you've had them or they've been with you for any length of time, um, it's very difficult when they pass away, just even natural
Mm.
causes.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so for something like that, something very traumatic, I can't even begin to imagine. And so I'm
Yeah.
very, very sorry for your
No, I
loss.
appreciate that. I really do. I openly talk about it as often as I possibly can because I think that some of the stuff I've learned over the years, like different therapists, there's regression therapy, there's flashing light therapies, whatever they call that crap. There's all these different things that I've been through, and I've just learned that talking about it, first of all, educates people about what, things somebody you don't know might be going through and what things mean to them in the voice of that person who it means it to. And it means don't if you see somebody having a bad day, you don't know what that bad day is about, you know?
Right.
So that's where I go with that. And I spent I came ho I stayed a little longer. I got healed, I should say, butterfly stitches and bruises went away, skin stopped burning, ear stopped ringing. They gave me another dog while I was there. Darko, started working him, did some stuff with that dog. Then I came home and stayed for a while. Um, went back to Iraq and went to
With the
Bosnia.
same contractor.
No, this one was triple canopy. I worked
Okay.
for EODT, triple canopy, AMK9. I've done Can-Am was the Canadian one. They're no longer operating.
And what year were you with Triple Canopy?
That was 2010, 11 or 11, 12, somewhere around there. I got married in February 2012, so it had to be 11, 2011.
Okay. And I ask because I've had several guests that were part of Triple Canopy.
Yeah, well, triple canopy now belongs to Constellis, just like AMK9 does, just like all the other ones I used to work for. And hey, Squid,
Richard
what's up,
Fleek,
shipmate?
welcome.
Uh, so
And what let's go back a little bit. So you're injured for a second time. What was the recoup like physically? I mean, obviously mentally that's a whole other ball game. How long did it take for you to physically heal?
um, February 2nd of that year, this was April 13th. But on February 2nd of that year, I had got um, my friend. I had just got to Afghanistan like September, October, whatever it was of 2009, and I met a guy named Paul, and um, never met him before. Black dude, really muscular, sweet guy. Never met him before in my life. I get there, I have no money. I just left that other job. I'd spent money traveling for here and there, trying to find work. I have my kids. They get all the money. I didn't keep any for myself. He gives me some equipment and he gives me $100. Says, let's go eat. Yeah. It was amazing. And we worked together. He had a dog named Chucky. We did a lot of stuff together, me and him. He was just salt of the earth. And then February 2nd was his first day. Uh, and he goes out on a mission. They told him, we're going to pick you up. They picked him up. I dropped him off the helicopter pad, the helicopter section of or Kandahar, and he goes flying out. He's back in 3.5 hours, being 9 line back in because he got blown up. His dog was dying. He lost half his leg, his right leg from the knee down. He had shrapnel on his stomach. Um, we had to put his dog down that night. So we gave him a C4 to smell uh, the dog and then gave him his toy and his tail wagged a little bit and then they euthanized him.
Mm.
And that it's bad. And then he was gone. Now all these people
And when you say the gentleman that had
He survives. He
okay,
survived.
okay. All
He
right.
survived. But he went flying to Germany with his canine Chucky passed away. It was just terrible. And all the Canadian soldiers and some of the American soldiers wrote the dog Chucky. They wrote the name on bombs and missiles and all sorts of stuff to send down range in his name, you know. Did it with Max too. So they were really hardcore about that kind of thing. And then yeah, I don't all those things that have happened, all those things that kept happening. There was guys getting blown up, guy broke his neck and died, all these blown up explosives, dogs getting lost left and right. It was the bloodiest time I could remember. Um, just like too much death when it came to dogs. There was a $75,000 bounty on canine, and they were all trying to get it. And I stood up, grabbed that damn leash, and lit my way back out to my base. The OP Kyber, they says, hey, we already got another dog handler here, but they could use you downrange. So they sent me to MSG, which was Fob Massengar or something like that, down Route Hyena. So I stayed there. Then they moved me to Cop Patricia, which was a combat operations post. And then that one has been lots of fights, lots of firefights, all the time fighting and shooting. And then one day they was like, hey man. And one day they was like, hey man, there's a helicopter coming at 7 in the morning and then another one at 1300. You got a mission tomorrow at 5 a.m. You want to go with the engineers and stuff and do that mission at 5, or you want to go and catch the 1300, or you want to catch the 700? I said 700. I've been blown up. I've seen people die. I just want to go home. And so I go 7 o'clock and I'm on a helicopter. You know, all my guys are off. I get on that helicopter with my dog and they're flying us back to Kandahar. These two Blackhawks, we're in a Chinook. These two Blackhawks go right past us flying. Like, what the hell? And there's like, hey man, they said it on the radio. I was like, get your headset. I was like, what's going on? He's like, hey, you were at Cop Patricia. I was like, yeah. And he goes, did you know Sergeant Goutreau? And I was like, yeah, he was my bunkmate. Me and him hated each other for the first couple of weeks I was there. Then we became like best friends after that. And he like really good friends. And we tell stories and it was really good. And it's like, yeah, he's in that helicopter. He had an IED and his legs are gone and they don't think he's gonna make it. And I was like, if I would have been on that mission with my dog, with my bomb dog, who found anything and everything, he might not have ended up in that position. And I brought that home as survival skill. He didn't make it. He passed away. I've stayed in touch with his parents, sent them pictures that they didn't know, sent them letters and stuff that, you know, emails, whatnot. I just sent them forward things that, you know, Marty had sent me. And
Right.
yeah, just those things, Afghanistan.
Not a pretty place. I mean,
Yeah.
and now that was during the time that you were working for which contractor?
Which one? I was under Can-Am, but the different things that, you know, they would request you to do, like if the Polish people wanted to borrow you, you couldn't. Yeah, it was complicated, but the primary was Can-Am.
Okay. And then when you were with Triple Canopy, that's after?
Yeah, way after. It was like I said, like maybe 7 months to a year after. A friend of mine called and said there was a guy they fired off a contract in Al Basra in southern Iraq. It's like, hey man, can you come finish this guy's contract? You know, we'll pay you $14,000 a month, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I just went over. That one wasn't bad. Um, that one wasn't bad at all. It was, you know, we got incoming rounds, and of course they would buzz them off with the sea whizzes or whatever they called them over there. But incomer mortars and stuff. But other than that, I didn't leave the base, didn't do any combat missions. We carried around 9 millimeters and wore khakis and polo shirts.
And you had a dog that
Yeah,
time too? Okay.
that dog was Spike, and nobody wanted to work him because he was what we called an ass eater. He's fine once you get him out of his kennel or his house, but once you put him in there, he'll turn and he'll put those 42 teeth in you deep. I mean, he goes for the full mouth bite, like all the way to the back of the gums, and gets every one of those teeth in there that he can. So
Wow.
we had a come to Jesus moment. I knew he was going to do it. I'm old school. I went through canine school in '93. The new ways of doing things aren't my way, but I have learned those ways. I've been through 7 canine academies, for schools and stuff over almost 30 years. And I've learned the new ways, but the old way seemed to work best with him. And they've tried everything out. So I reached my hand in with my leash. He went to bite at me. I open palmed him in the top of the head as pretty much as hard as I could with the angle I had. And he looked at me like, "Are you serious?" And I stuck my hand back in there and I put my hand up and he's like, "Okay, you win." And from then on we were best friends.
You got to show him who's really alpha, right?
Back in the day, it used to be I mean, there was all sorts of tricks. Bite them on the ear.
I've heard
Uh,
that one.
Old people would say, "Bring a switch with you," and um, give them commands and smack them across the back top of the head where it doesn't really cause them any damage. Um, there's so many different ways, old school. The new ways is positive reinforcement, and I agree with that 100%. But every once in a while, and we have e-collars and vibrating collars and food rewards, clickers, all that other good stuff.
Right, right. I can tell you, I have a Siberian Husky, and he just is a little over 2 years old, and nothing works on this dog. Clickers, positive reinforcement. He forgets his own name
Yeah.
on purpose. And yeah.
Yeah. Huskies are great. Have you tried hooking them up to a harness and have them pull like 50 pounds around?
No. As
Huskies
I
love
said,
that.
yeah, we lived in Montana, and we actually had um, oh, okay, Jason, what was Sarge? What was his breed? It was not a Siberian or yeah, it wasn't a husky. Um, I don't know
Chow?
why the term just kind of went out of my head. But basically, oh yeah, a Sapala sled dog.
Oh, okay.
Now looked just like a husky,
Yeah.
but not, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's what he had been bred for, was sledding.
Yeah.
And but we never did, because we didn't end up with, but from the time we got him until the time we moved to Tennessee, we didn't have any snow really to count. So
Sure. Not until last year anyway.
right.
But
So it was like, well, but by that point, unfortunately, he ended up with oh, what was that? I don't know. Dogs get leukemia?
they can get leukemia, hip dysplasia, they can get every kind of thing we got.
What the glands were all swollen and
Well,
yeah, lymphoma. Sorry,
lymphoma.
lymphoma.
There you go.
Thank you, my dear. So yes, lymphoma, and he did not last. He just did, I think, just had turned 5.
Well, we just had some tumors removed off my dog. Like we did about a year and a half ago, and then we just did another one a couple days ago, and she's recovering from it, but she's fine now. But so like all the stuff that I've done, all that time I had nothing. So I started coming back. I couldn't work anymore. I finished in 2017 working contract. So 5 years. So 2011 was my last deployments going overseas, and then like I got remarried in 2012. Um, and she joins the army. She goes into the army, and
After you
she's
guys got married.
yeah. So she goes into the army, and we moved to California. We're living in Denver, she and I, and then we moved to California. And then I'm like, I got to work on my therapy, and I want to work on my disability ratings. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm working as hard as I can, and I couldn't. There was nothing. I wanted to go to school, and I couldn't figure out what to use my GI Bill, all this other stuff, and so it made it very complicated for me because I didn't know the system, and the vet reps didn't know anything. I didn't know what like a veteran service officer was. I didn't know who the DAV was. I knew nothing. All I knew was go talk to the vet rep in the at the school, and they'll help me. And they kind of helped me, but they told me to use my GI Bill. That's all I had. So I was like, okay. So I got my undergrad with my GI Bill, ran out of money. So I want a master's degree. A couple years ago, I start my master's degree, and I just graduated last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm starting again in the fall, like a silly person would.
What are you
But
going for now?
um, so I have a master's in criminal justice administration. I want to either get a master's in legal studies, which is MLS, which is basically a lawyer without being a lawyer. It's a 2-year program instead of like 3 or whatever. So I don't go to courts. I just do contracts or legal stuff. And then, or I want to get my PhD, and I already have my thesis. My thesis done, and I could go on and do that. But see, like my wife's 100% service connected PNT. I'm 100% service connected.
I was gonna ask if you'd managed to get your rating up.
Yeah, but that was the hardest thing. It was, I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know what to do. I spent 8.5 years working on 30% to 100%. Finally got my 100% years ago. And then educational stuff, I didn't know anything about. Insurance or medical stuff, I knew nothing about. There was a lot of things that I just had no idea that were offered by either the VA or other organizations that are nothing to do with the government, but state benefits, all these other things. And then I came here with my graduate degree. We moved to Tennessee in 2019 from Maryland, where she retired out of the Army. We were up there at Fort Meade. Came down here, bought a house. I started, I finished my school up there. Came down here, started working for the Department of Children's Services in the state of Tennessee. That hurt my head a lot. It was sad because I worked foster care, right? And
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
and they were only paying us 27,000 a year at the time.
Oh, goodness, in
Yeah,
19?
in 2019. They've upped
That's
it to 60
terrible.
now. But yeah. So I'm working there, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This job calls me up where I work now. Here's the long name for it. You ready? Reserve Component Transitional Assistant Advisor.
Well, it sounds promising for other veterans.
So it's actually TA is our short, right? So transitional, so assistant.
Assistant.
And because of this job, I learned everything I've been missing out on for a decade, and it blew my mind. You know, I could go to school, which I do, getting paid for because my wife's 100% PNT. I go to school, they give me chapter 35, which is VRNE. I'm sorry, not VRNE, chapter 35, which is the spouse assistance. So I get $1,488 per month, right? They pay me it's our account, they're paying her, but they pay my account, and it's money for me to go to school every month. And you could use that money to buy hamburgers, or you could use it to pay your school. You're supposed to use it to pay your school, but you could use it for whatever you want. And that helps me go to school and continue my master's and continue on my higher education, right?
That's awesome.
I've been wearing knee braces and other braces my entire life, post military life. Um, and there's uh, a VA clothing allowance. It doesn't apply to everybody, but if you're wearing medical equipment or creams or something, you get $862 for 2 of those items per year. Between my wife and myself, that's 4 times 862, you get it every year. So there's things I didn't know about that you could be making all this money from, that you earned that you didn't even know about, you know? So it took
And
me 8.5 years.
so now is this a governmental job?
Yeah, I'm a federal contractor. I work for the National Guard Bureau, and the National Guard Bureau, um, we work for them, but we help Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, right? And there's a qualification, like for us to count you as somebody we helped. 180 days of active duty consecutive 180 days of active duty service, and have been in the reserve or the guard or inactive ready reserve. And any of those things will qualify like a lot of people. But if you did 4 years active duty and you did 4 years IRR or 6 years active to
Right.
whatever, it qualifies you. But if you called me up and you spent 20 years in the Army or Navy and you call me up, I'm gonna be talking to you and I'm gonna tell you everything I freaking know. I mean, look my name up, William Moland, Moland. It's on the screen. Um, there's news stories done on me. There's um, my personal, not my personal, but my contact information that's on the tn.gov website under military. That contact's there. I wrote a book, so you'll find my book in there. So
Ah,
buy
and
it.
what is the name of the book? Do you
It's a
have a
sci-fi. It's a sci-fi book. No, I don't. I mean, I have it in. I have a copy in my library down the hall, but I'm not going to go get that.
Okay, that's all
So
right. We'll get a copy, everybody, so I can put it up there and show because
it's a young adult, 12 to 18. So it's not
that's
military
okay.
related. It's just something had to get out of my head.
Right. And it also one, it keeps your mind focused on something other, right,
It
than
does.
the PTS. And um it allows for you to feel accomplished as well, right?
Yeah.
Which is key in trying to heal, you know, your heart and your head.
Yeah.
So congratulations and kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah.
So we will definitely get um get a copy of that. So
Cool.
um now how long have you been then a federal contractor?
Oh, I started in, so it's been years. It's 2020, the end of November 2020. They hired me, and it was there was only 50 in the entire country at the time. Then the
Did you say
DoD
50 or 15?
50, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So they were like, we need more people. So they redid a contract. The contract ended and was redone. I was I didn't apply for this job. Somebody called me, and I thought it was a joke or a scam, and said, "Hey, we have this great job opportunity, and we think you're fit for it. You were in the Air Force, Army, and Navy. You have disabilities. You've been through school. We see your resume on LinkedIn or whatever. They seen it on LinkedIn or wherever, or not LinkedIn, Indeed, wherever they saw it. There's like, man, you got all these qualities that we're looking for this position because you'll know the subject matter." I said, "What's the subject matter?" They said, "Legal assistance, relocation assistance, employment assistance, effects of career changes, disabled vet benefits, financial assistance, health and life insurance, education and training, and physical and mental health, and then of course whatever state benefits there are." And I was like, "I know most of those." And it's like, "Well, you're hired if you want to talk about it." And I was like, "Yeah." They sent me a laptop, and I get this lovely laptop, and sent me a purple shirt and with the logo and a name tag. I went and got a CAC card. Um, Told me I had to have an office, so I just picked one of these Army National Guard units, called them up, said I need an office. They gave me one. I go there about once a week. I do 99.9% of what I do is right here in this office. It's all from home except for I go do yellow ribbons. Like you deploy, you go to yellow ribbon. When you come back, you go to yellow ribbon. I go brief those. Nashville, Chattanooga, East Tennessee is mine. But I go and help Nashville because a lot of big units go there to Nashville all the time, and you need a lot of people, like 2 or 3 of us to cover it. There's 3 of us in all of Tennessee. I'm the only one that does this in East Tennessee. Um, I helped almost all the Guard reserve units, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine, Coast Guard, all of them in East Tennessee so far. Brief at units, brief at retirements. I mean, I'm constantly talking like I'm doing right now.
Right.
But
And
yeah.
and how has that helped you be able to heal?
It does in a very significant way. Very good question, because there are people who are at the start of what I went through or in the middle of what I went through, and they just don't know. They
Right.
don't know, and that's a fun thing. Fun. It's a factual thing that we say a lot is you don't know what you don't know. Just call me and talk to me. I'm not charging you your money. I need your name, your rank, your branch of service, an email and a phone number. You already called me, so I got your freaking frigate phone number. Give me your
Right.
email, and I'll
And this
send
is
you.
only for basically kind of mid Tennessee, East Tennessee.
Right, that's for me. I mean, I'll help.
Right.
I'm on
But I mean,
Facebook.
within the state of Tennessee, that's what this is for. Or
My
is it
job.
yeah, I mean, as far as what you do and this program, it's not do
It's
they have
national.
something similar? It is national.
It is
Okay.
national. I work for a national company. My team is made up. So there's 100 of us across the whole country, including Puerto Rico and Hawaii. And
Okay.
so Tennessee, we have 3 of us. Indiana has like 1. Ohio has 2. Utah has 2. So on my team, there's 100 of us. So they break us up into 10 teams of 10. And then so like my team is Tennessee, Tennessee, Indiana, Utah, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Missouri. So all 10 of us, that's 10 people. That's 6 states and only 10 people, right?
Right.
So and Tennessee has the majority. Like we have 3 because we're such a long state, it's costly. Um, so they sent me this laptop and they were like, you got to start working, figure it out. I had to start working, knocking on doors and to these guard units. They didn't know who I was because nobody's ever been here in East Tennessee to do what I do.
Right.
Veterans don't even know what I do. The guard don't know what I do, and I work for the guard. And none of these people knew anything. It took me 6 to 7 months to build any kind of rapport. And then I started talking to people more and more. And as I talk to more people, you hear these stories. There's rape victims, there's assault victims, there's combat veterans, there's trauma from bad oral surgery. I mean, you can get PTSD from that, I mean, you get PTSD from a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of people who talk to me, and when I sit there and talk to them, go, "Hey, there's a program for you, and I know these programs, and it's free to you. I'm free to you. Nothing's going to cost you. Never pay for your benefits. Never deal with that kind of thing because never deal with paying anybody for it because there's people like me who's out here who can get it to you for free, or I can get you to people who can do it for free. There's a veteran service officer. A lot of us know who they are. There's the disabledamericanveteran.org, DAV.org. There's a program that we tell people about that they're a .org, have nothing to do with the VA, that you can go to anywhere in the country. You can go to, they'll pay for you for 7 days, round trip flights to Maryland, 7 days, PTSD therapy. It's just 10 to 12 people at a time in this place. You don't have to deal with a lot of you don't have to deal with large crowds and stuff. You get your own room, they feed you. It's all sorts of good stuff. Excuse me, there's horseback riding, they build a knife out of a railroad tie and shop. I mean, there's so
Oh,
many
that's
things.
cool.
Yeah, and you don't pay a dime for it. And all they do is give you, and it's not doctors, it's people helping each other. And
Right.
it's a very good program. So I put that in an email. I put in all the educational stuff that's in emails. We do a lot with employment. Um, it's a fantastic job where I get people sometimes like we have relocation assistance and the relocation assistance is getting people off the street, like VASH, subsidized housings from the VA. There's VASH. There's all sorts of other programs we know about that can help people that will get them off the streets. And my dog just walked in, and I got to move my flight control pedals off the floor. Come on, get in there. Just be under the desk. Sorry.
No,
Um,
that's okay.
and I have flight pedals because I like to play my airplane game. But so yeah, I mean, getting people off the street. I just a month and a half. No, gosh, it's been longer than that now. It's been like 3 months ago. There was a World War II veteran's widow. She had called me and help. I can't use my restroom. I can't take a shower. Is there a program for me to use my deceased husband's benefits to do some remodeling so I can get a health? I don't want somebody living in my house. I'm 98 years old. I can drive a car still. I mow my own lawn.
You go, woman.
But there were some things that she had issues with, and she wanted me to help her with them, and I couldn't find anything. So I spent 2.5 days calling all these organizations till I found one, and they finally put her on their build and the build list, and they built her a new bathroom that was handy capable for her. For military, that's just you get the VA housing grant for repairs to your house. And if I need a new toilet because I can't use it, or a shower or something, or I need a ramp, there's programs you can get that you're not paying for that.
Right, right.
Yeah, just helping people, like, it's very cathartic. There's a lot of relief when somebody will call me 6 months later. Man, you were so right. I'm about to start my second semester of school, and I'm making money by going to school right now, and it's so feel good.
Right. So
Yeah.
rewarding. Yeah. And it does. It mentally, for one, they can hear your story, what you can tell, right? And they
Yeah.
know you're a veteran. You've been to combat, you've been, you have PTSD, you deal with a lot of the things that they deal with, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it easier for them to relate to you and trust what you're telling them
Mhm.
because you've been there and you've done that.
And I got the T-shirt.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I think it's amazing what you're doing. Absolutely amazing. Um, we have two Marines.
Mhm.
One, he separated in April, and our middle, we're actually going to pick him up on, well, we're going to get there on Tuesday,
Right.
and he will be home for good. So he's separating, but he's med boarded out.
So in his situation, he's gonna have the opportunity to go to TAP class. TAP is Transitional Assistant Planning. So he's gonna get, like, the VA is gonna come in, they're gonna give him paperwork to sign for if you wanna claim your disability now, if you wanna put in your intent to file, if you wanna do, excuse me, tacos. If you, if you do, want to do this, that, or the other, you gotta do your paperwork now, now, now. So it's fine, yeah, do his file the intent to file for his disability and stuff, but he's needs to talk to somebody like me in his state, or just call me. You know what I mean? I
Right.
think I told you about it too, so yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. So definitely I'm sure from this you'll be getting several phone calls. And
Uh, yeah, that'd
from
be
this
good.
state. Well, and if not this state, of course there is one in Georgia, but
Mhm.
that I know of. So
Well,
but you could direct them, right?
yeah, well, like, okay, so all these programs are national programs. I could help somebody with the exact same information from Maine, New Jersey, Texas, it doesn't matter. The only thing that changes in all these programs is the state plans. Like, here in Tennessee, here in Tennessee, you have to be 100% service connected. You can get $175,000 off your property, taxable. So if you have a $200,000 property, you only have to pay taxes on $25,000 of it. You get a
Okay. And then does that include then, because you're only assessed at 25% of the
mhm,
assessed value.
mhm.
So are they assessing it that 100, for the 25,000, are they then taking
Yeah,
25% of that?
so it's VA math, but yes. So if you take your military ID card and some people say take your DD-214, some county clerks say bring your latest 100% service connected letter with the latest date on it that you could print up off the internet. Bring it down to your county clerk, tax office lady, person, man, whoever's there. You hand it to them, and they just automatically take it off. Whatever it is, it is. All I know is the math on that. I don't even know VA math. I don't even know basic math. So I
I feel
try
your
really hard.
pain. Math hurts.
I I may have a master's degree, but I took the simplest maths I could take. But
That's fair. That's fair.
so yeah,
And
and
we've
there's
talked
also
here
sorry, go ahead.
because we've talked on this channel before about when it comes to property taxes and being a disabled American veteran. And
Yeah.
as far as being, I know it was 100%
Mhm.
DAV, but and I don't know if it's been changed, but that they were looking at maybe going to a scale.
There's a lot of so I can't speak of what might be. I can't do that, but I can say, if you start talking if I talk rumors and I'm that official guy and anything I say might be, could be,
Right,
it
right,
becomes
right.
more official and people start believing it more. So I got to be careful. But I know that there are some states that give 30% disabled veterans 100% off of taxes. There's some states that are 50% and you get a car and a house and your property taken.
Because I know
So,
Montana had been 100% disabled. You were
mhm,
100% tax free.
which is good in Montana because Montana is the land of tax on like they have no tax, but there's tax they're collecting elsewhere. Like your license plate, what was it, like 4 grand for one car?
It's based off of the value of your vehicle. You buy a
Yeah,
brand
that's
new
right.
vehicle,
Yeah.
yeah, we were paying annually almost $500 a year
Yeah.
for, I think it was a 2008 Toyota Sequoia.
So it can get up there. So the thing is that there's those things like that. You have to look at each state individually and see what their it's on the Tennessee State website too under tn.gov what those are under veteran benefits. But you also get like 100%. You get a free hunting and fishing license here in the state of Tennessee. It's for the rest of your life. And then you get the DV license plate, disabled veteran license plate. You pay $10 for it, and it never expires. Those are good things to get here in Tennessee. Some states offer free education for something. I mean, you just got to look and see what your state says. But as far as helping anybody who might listen to this, if you just if you can call me, my number's 202-987-3545. If you call that or you Google me, William Moland, you'll find a lot of contact to get in touch with me on my my government phone. It's a did I say 202? It's two. Is it two? Yeah,
You
it's 202. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is
okay?
202-987. There you go.
Okay, 202.
I'm gonna try to make sure I'm right because I say it
You
so
want me
many
to
times.
look?
I'm looking. I am looking. I am looking.
Oh my gosh.
I am so bad at phone numbers, and I should know my number. I've been here so long. I just reduced confidence in me by 80%.
Oh, I feel bad. I'm sorry. You've got this.
I got it. Watch this. Yep, tn.gov. I had it right. 202. I am good. I'm smarter than I thought I was. So I got that off the tn.gov website for
There you go.
verification.
And what's the full number?
202
Mhm,
987
mhm.
3545.
And
So
that is William. I'm putting it in the chats.
yeah, go for it.
William
So
Moland. And that you are, do you have a title? Do you have,
hmm, just I'm a transitional assistant advisor, but the thing is, it's like that name is so it's like a misnomer. It needs to be benefits person, but yeah, we do a lot of benefits. So I mean, we assist a benefits assistance advisor. There you go. That might even sound better, but
say that one more time?
benefits assistance advisor.
Okay, hang on. Benefits.
Officially, it's transitional assistant advisor, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone on from point A to point B that puts me in this job that makes the job the best job for me. And I've helped so many people. It makes me feel good. I don't know if I'll ever leave. If they ever end the contract, I probably will have to retire or something. But
Okay, so I just put that in the chats. William Moland, Benefits Transitional Advisor. You can also look under Tennessee.gov.
yeah, tn.gov. That works. Yeah, that works too. So the thing is, like, just Google that name, man, and you'll find me. You'll find a lot of stuff. I'm not a very private person. I have made my Facebook page is wide open, and I've been gathering over the last year or so, like 100 and something people. I've been building and building my social media, helping veterans. So they come to my page and look for jobs because I'll post jobs, I'll post
Oh, that's
job
awesome.
fairs, I'll post events, free giveaways that an organization's given to families or what. I just keep whatever I get, I give, and I just want to make sure everybody has access to it. And Facebook isn't like my personal Facebook. It's more for me as a creator, business person sort of thing to let people know where they can
Right.
find these things, because you know how hard it is for anyone to contact a veterans group and have that veterans group trust who you are. Um, you're not a scammer. You're not trying to take advantage of them in some way. What's the catch? When's this other shoe drop, so to speak? And it has taken so long to build a rapport with all these communities, and I still sometimes get feedback like, "Hey, man, you're just trying to scam us. Go away." And it's difficult. It's very difficult. But I go to the Guard and Reserve units, and I got a captive audience. They're all in uniform. They have to be there. They don't have a choice. I
Right.
put up my slideshow, and I'll talk for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, however much time I get, and I tell them all about everything, blow some people's minds, and um, then I leave. But veterans, I can't capture you. I can't force you to sit in a briefing. So I use outlets like yourself, which is a very good outlet, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. And then the Facebook, LinkedIn, and news channels that come to my house and give me interviews. I mean, they're finding me because they hear what I do, and they want me to be able to help more. And that's what I'm trying to do, as many people as I can.
And I know, I don't recall the year. I'm sure if I Googled it, I could find it. But here in Tennessee, Governor Lee wants to make the state of Tennessee the number one state for veterans.
Okay.
And I know that the state has funding a lot has gone towards veterans, be it the different programs that they help provide grants for funding, to
Mhm.
help. So I can't thank you enough for all that you do. Before we get too much farther, for anybody that is out in the chats, if you have any questions for William, go ahead now and post those in the chats for me.
I'll do my best.
You will do just fine. Just don't ask him 2 + 2.
Yeah, just don't. No maths. No math. Four times nine is blue. That's where I'm at. Sorry.
Oh, so I know Jason had said thank you for your service, William. Now that was earlier, or
Thanks
sorry,
for your
that's
support.
Jim. And then Jason says thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you for your support, sir.
And so obviously we're very, very happy to have had you here. Why? My There we go. Okay. Also, if anybody has not, be sure please to go out and like, share, and please comment after the show. And that will certainly help uh, William as well to get his information out. We want to get that information to veterans as far and wide as possible. So please, please share, 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 because as he said, these programs, it's nationwide. The company that he's with, he's just a contractor. So it's a nationwide thing. So we
Mhm.
want to help as many veterans as we possibly can. And the only way to get that information out is word of mouth. So
Yes.
share as much as possible.
Like, share, and pass it on to the next person. That's
That's
it.
right. That's exactly right. And where do you want to see, what do you want to see happen with your position? Like I know obviously we want to be successful, right?
Sure, sure.
What do you consider success for yourself?
Ooh, um, it's for me. I'm happy. I'm happiest when I'm with people that love me and I love, and I'm happiest when I can take care of somebody who might need me, family. So I guess the happiest, the best place to be, like to be successful, is if somebody is out there in my circle, I should say, just whether it's family or non-blood family, and somebody needs something, that I'd be in a position to help them without it hurting me too much. I mean, I'll still do it if it hurts me, but I'd rather it not hurt me.
I understand
So,
that. That makes
yeah.
perfect sense to me.
I don't need to be famous. I don't have this desire. I wrote a book because it just felt like the right thing to do. I didn't I don't put myself on TV with the news and podcasts and stuff because I want to be famous. I want to just I want to be able to help people without um I just want to help people. I guess
Right.
I like helping. I've always been a cop, always been in law enforcement, always been in the military. I worked fire service from I did that
Trying to find your way, right?
and everything I've done is like, helping people. And I think that's been my life.
And
And
here you are continuing to serve and help
I'm going to
others.
try to. Yes.
Well, it sounds like you're on a really good path. Um, so Jim says no questions, but a big thank you for everything that you did, endured, and are now doing to be a godsend for those in need of your wisdom. Good luck with school.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think that having support from people like yourself and people who are watching you and everything is very significant in getting the message out. No matter if it's my job or even passing on what a DAV is or what a VSO is or one of the other people in this type of job. It's a good thing.
Right. Tennessee Goddess says, thank you for your service. She's going to share the info with her buddy, Trevor. So
Awesome.
I think that's great. So, even to get one or two people that to contact you, that's one or two people who now can share
Yep.
your information as well. So um, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the veterans who utilize the information that you have available. So, and I would love to be able to follow up at some point and see how it's going for you, and
Mm.
you know, just kind of keep in touch.
Right. See if I'm still wearing the purple shirt for the company. Yeah.
Right.
it- we're building a social media team on our company too. We had one person transition over to just do that full time, and I'm part of that team now too. So not only do I do that, I do what I do now. I also am doing the social media stuff. So they're wanting to get some podcasts out and invite people on, and start inward, of course, and then work our way out to people. But
Right.
yeah, we're trying to do stuff like that. So yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been on a few podcasts now, and yours was the longest.
This is nothing.
Which I
my
enjoy
longest
thoroughly.
my longest show was 3 hours with a gentleman who said, I don't think I
Mm.
have anything to talk about. I was never in combat.
No,
But
it,
great
I
shows.
I just didn't want to. I'm glad it's because it's the time because then we talk really fast and I have to be you know like I'm doing an auction or something. So it's appreciative. I get to spend more time on it.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, this platform was created for veterans to tell their story, however they saw it, whatever they cared to tell, and in a way that makes sense for them, as well as resources. That's a key for me. So I appreciate that. Jim says that he has a friend that was Army Reserve and then fully active for 30 years, severe PTSD, medical probably at 100 because both his knees and such. He did what you did, but without a dog. And he says he's going to give him your number if he wants to reach out. His name is Mitchell West out of Billings, Montana. So,
Oh, absolutely. Definitely will help them out. Just tell them to call
yeah.
me. I'll take calls all the way up to like 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'll take calls on weekends too. It's just I work from home, so I can go 2 days without working, and I'm trying to work and I'm trying to make calls, but you get these lulls once in a while. So
Right.
yeah, I make up for it by working weekends, so the company gets their money's worth.
Well, I want to say also, please tell your wife thank you very much
Mhm.
also for her
Oh
sacrifice
yeah,
and service. We want to make sure that she's recognized as well. And
absolutely.
again, everything that you do and have done and sacrificed. Now, we're going to go ahead. I don't see any additional questions, but William, if you want to hold tight
Sure.
and then we can chat for a few minutes backstage. Um, so I'm going to go ahead. I want to thank you again
Yeah,
for being here tonight, for sharing your story, for providing some excellent resources all the way around.
absolutely.
So,
I
all
appreciate
right.
you invite me on, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
My honor, absolutely.
Mm.
So, everybody else, I look forward to seeing you again next weekend. That would be next Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Everybody have a wonderful week. Stay safe out there.